Good morning, everyone. Yesterday, we had a discussion about water and how it uh, affects the body. We talked about the sacredness of water and how it influences our journey in this life. However, before we continue that, I want to ask if there are questions about the waters or anything that you want to bring up today.
Good morning, Pastor. This is Kathy. In your recap of water for someone who may not have been on yesterday, can you start from the origin of why this is important and how it ties into everything that we've been learning about who we are and what that means when we talk about the significance of water?
Sure. Okay. Before I begin the recap, are there any specific questions about it or specific questions about anything else? Okay.
Yeah, it's fun. I think this ties in. You have said on other occasions as well that we never left beginning, and you tied that in yesterday. Could you kind of open that up a little bit more as well? I just want to make sure I understand that.
Can I say that until after the recap run?
Yes, sir.
Are there any questions about anything other than the waters right now?
I have one.
Uh-huh.
How does what we're studying now line up to the first shall be last and the last shall be first?
Um, that is speaking to those who. Let me back up. Remember that Jesus is 99 and 9/10% of the time. Jesus is speaking to an African audience, and when Jesus talks about that, he is not talking about the last shall be first and the first shall be last in terms of this material world. Jesus is talking about the way that the true spiritual essence of the priesthood had been diminished into something other than what it should have been. Jesus is looking at the material greed that's being exemplified in the priesthood. Jesus is looking at the arrogant ruling class who had bells on their robe so that people would move and give them space when they were in the marketplace. Jesus is looking at how the priests sold out the people to the Romans, and they became the safeguard for the Romans in that they were supposed to make sure that the Roman government had no challenges from the people in Palestine, and that the priests were charged with keeping them in line. So when he speaks about the last shall be first, first shall be last, he's not talking about personal domination, neither is he talking about rulership over people. What he's saying, in essence, is the conceptual understanding of spirituality will rise above this false the false teachings about what spirituality is. And in that regard, he is saying that there will arise a priesthood who will be true to the teachings of the Scriptures, whose ear will be open to the divine, whose eye will be open to see the righteousness that is desired in the earth. So it is in that regard that he was talking about the first shall be last and last shall be first. Does that help you?
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. Anyone else? And not to worry, I'm still going to do the recap in a few moments. And, is there anyone else? Any questions? Okay, thank you. Um, First of all, when we talk about the waters, we must keep in mind that without water there is no life, and water has always played a prominent position in our lives. One of the examples that I gave yesterday was the usage of water in baptism. However, I think if we look at what a baptism represents, which is mikvah, and understand the purpose of mikvah, then we will understand why the water is so important when we relate it to baptism. The reason for mikvah was a return to the womb. The water of the mikvah represented the embryonic fluid in the womb, and it spoke to the idea of a renewed life, a renewed opportunity to start a fresh journey towards understanding the essence of spirituality. And we talked about how water is constantly in motion and that it has a vibration. Water vibrates throughout the body. It causes our bodies to respond to its vibration. This vibration gives off a rhythm, and that starts in our brain, or with our brain rather. Our brain is covered in water, and the fluid that's in our head, when the thoughts, when desires, when our memories come to life within our mind, it gives off a energy that vibrates the water. Example: if I think of a thing that is negative or unrighteous, then the vibration that the water has in my head vibrates throughout the body, and that determines my response to that thought. If my response to that thought is one of to get even with someone or to quote-unquote lay down my religion, then that gives off a negative feeling throughout your body, and it results in anger or fear, everything that is adverse to righteousness. If I have that thought and I respond to it in a righteous way, meaning that I see it as an opportunity to be the essence of loving kindness, then that rhythm that comes from the vibration of that thought through the water in my body, that rhythm puts me in rhythm with the universe. And as a result of that, my being in tune with the universe gives me peace and keeps me calm. When we look at the studies of water, we see that negativity causes the water crystals to change form. They end up having a type of deformity from what they were when they were in a neutral position, or when water was spoken to in a very, very positive way. It is impossible for us to function, to live, to think without affecting the water in our bodies, understanding that over 90% of our body is water. So the dominant force in our body is the water, and the energy from that vibration of the water determines the nature determines how we respond to those outside or internal stimuli, whether it be someone on the outside saying something negative about us, or whether it be a thought in our mind negative about someone else, or a word spoken negatively. All of these things are there to actually bring healing to the body, or it causes harm to the body. An example is if I call you dumb, and your response to that is anger, now your body feels it. If you are at work and you have things you want to say but you're afraid to say it, and you get stressed out, now that stress is vibrated through your body and you feel it in your body. If you experience that stress and you stop long enough to breathe and remind yourself of who you are, then that stress does not harm your body. As a matter of truth, you don't experience that stress any longer, and a type of calmness floods your body. So when we talk about the idea of water and its effects on our being, these are the basic effects that it has. And when we speak of the water, we are also speaking of beginning, because water has always been in play in our lives. And because of that, we are always one with beginning. Ron asked the question about how what does it mean when we talk about we never left beginning. The reason is not because of the flesh, this material body. The reason that we have never left beginning is because from the beginning there was always water in play in our creation. And the waters of beginning are the waters with which we were created. And if that is the case, the reason we cannot leave beginning is because we cannot leave ourselves. And the ultimate self in this material world is the predominance of water in this physical form. And in saying that, this water is the source of life in this earth, which means that this water is also what the spiritual is in the other world, meaning that the life force comes from the spiritual. And a reminder of that spiritual life force is the water. And the reason the water is a reminder is because there is no life without the water. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
I have
Go ahead.
a question or comment that I'd like clarified, please. You talked about understanding the purpose of mikvah, and it's the water of the mikvah that represents our return to the womb. And the womb is sort of like again a return to beginning. It is a place of darkness, a place of it's a place of comfort for us because we don't know anything else. It is all we know when we're in the womb. We are fed, we're taken care of, we have no thoughts about worrying about anything. And so returning to the womb then in a sense is returning to beginning, because once we return to beginning and a birth, everything has an opportunity for there's an opportunity to create newness, to create anything. And so if our thoughts are stem from the water, i.e. spinal fluid, whatever else that covers our brain, which is liquid also, then every thought then has the opportunity of coming from a place of beginning, is what I hear you saying, which means that my thought, I can easily have a positive thought as the negative thoughts I allow myself to have. And in this realm, we tend to let the negative thoughts prevail. But what I hear you saying is as Elohim, I have the responsibility, knowing what I know, to allow positive thoughts to prevail, thoughts that transform negativity into peacefulness, into righteousness, into loving kindness. I know the end in the beginning, in a sense. And now that I know the end in the beginning, who I am, what I'm purposed to do, then it should make what I do and how I think and what I say not as burdensome as it would ordinarily been, because I know I'm not doing it on my own. I am not unequally yoked anymore, in a sense. I understand my purpose and my role. So, I mean, that's what I hear in what you're saying, and in the question that Ron asked.
Yes. And that brings me to a place that I want to introduce something in regards to that. When we have these thoughts, when we have this memory, when we have these desires, the source of them, the source of them is always in beginning. And what I mean by always in beginning is that beginning is the place where this material world was formed. And this material world was formed when the light was called out of the darkness, when the Spirit hovered over the waters. That's in Genesis. The first two verses of Genesis, I believe it is, or maybe three, they cover this concept of where creation emanated. The beginning holds within it, the waters hold within it everything that is, meaning that all of our thoughts, all of our desires, all of the memories are there in the deep, in this water source from the beginning. And what happens is we have a choice. If we have negative thoughts and we continue to process them negatively, then what we are actually doing is allowing the darkness to overcome the light. What we are doing is allowing chaos to continue. However, when we bring positivity out of it, which is another way of saying when we bring righteousness, peace, and joy, love, and kindness, when we bring that out of the deep, then what we're actually doing is calling the light out of the darkness, but at the same time, we are bringing order to the chaos that's within the confines of that swirling water. And I don't want us to see it as if it is just a pool of water. However, I want us to see it as a spiritual entity. And if you really think about it, yesterday Ron brought up something as an example about letters being in a bag. If we can see that all of our thoughts are in that bag, and the way we frame them, it determines whether they are positive or whether they are negative. Example, the word hate is in the deep. I can say I hate you, or I can say that hate is not healthy spiritually or physically. I pull that word out of the deep. It is my choice, my decision as to how I am going to frame it, use it, or express it. Every time that we be expressive of hate as being unhealthy, when we express the idea of hate as being divisive, then what we are actually doing is bringing the opportunity for peace into the earth. we are overcoming those who see the color of your skin or see your gender and hate you. We are bringing we are creating a positive forum for this discussion about hate, so we are able to transform it into something positive. The opposite of hate is not love. The opposite of hate is compassion. Can you see that?
Yes, and what I know you're on a roll, Pastor, so please forgive me. Out of what you just said, the letters EVIL can also be spelled LIVE. So from a spiritual perspective, how we choose to form our thoughts is what you're saying, can create the forum for transforming evil into negativity into life. So even with those same letters, we can create the essence of two different things. Our responsibility still is create life.
Yes. Yes. See, we cannot. The reason I say that love is not the opposite of hate, is because without compassion, there is no love. So compassion must be there in order for you to be expressive of love. And another example of what you, Barbara, what you gave with the evil and Leo, is in the Hebrew, the zero. The word zero means no or nothing. The word for zero rather means no or it means nothing. So if you look at how it's spelled, Lamed Aleph means nothing. If you turn it around, Aleph Lamed is God or Elohim. So the zero or indicates a hidden or unknowable or something that's uncertain. It can represent absolutely nothing, or it can be representative of those things that you are not aware of at the moment. However, when you realize, when you embrace the reality that you are Elohim, now all of a sudden those things that were unknowable becomes common to you. They become knowable to you. And that is the reason that it is written that the spiritual man knows all things. The reason the spiritual man knows all things is because the spiritual Adam recognizes its origin. And the origin that it recognizes is that all thoughts, all desires, all memories are in the waters of beginning. And that water is in us. We are 90% of that water. And by virtue of understanding that and embracing that, with our desire for loving kindness, peace, and harmony, that transforms the way the water vibrates within. And that transformation gives us the opportunity to bring love and kindness, those desires, into this earth and put it in the macro. It gives us opportunity to become the creators that we were brought into this earth to be. It gives us a sense of belonging to the one who created us, meaning that it gives us a greater sense of being one with our Creator, being the same as our Creator, being no different than our Creator, with the exception of occupying a physical body. So we are continuously creating from the deep or from the waters of creation. We are continuously bringing life or we're bringing death. Death is not the cessation of living in this body. Yes, it's being ignorant of who you are, and reconciling yourself to live and participate in a world of chaos, as opposed to recognizing that you are Elohim and your responsibility is to bring order to this world, to bring peace from this chaos. Does that make sense? Or are there questions or comments?
Yes, this is Angela. I got a question. I'm still with the water. What I was going to ask, is that the same as Jesus was talking to the woman at the well? Is that same?
Water was there involved in that. What she was actually doing, if you look at it from a material perspective, it has really no meaning other than Jesus saying that the time will come when you will worship neither in Jerusalem or in this place. If you look at the whole scene through the eye, you see something deeper than that. And the depth of what you see is this. She's there at the well, and what she's doing, she is drawing from the source of life. She is drawing the substance that sustains life in this earth. Femininity is searching for life, and it has been beaten down so much because of the position that it's been forced to occupy until it is ashamed to seek the source of life in the presence of others. So it comes in the heat of the day, meaning that at the most difficult time, at the time when everyone else is avoiding the heat, when everyone else is in the comfort of their own places, this feminine energy comes to find, to draw from this source of life. And in doing so, it comes face to face with the essence of masculinity. And the masculinity recognizes that this feminine energy has been abused. And the abuse of this feminine energy was at the hands of masculinity. So this healing has to come from masculinity. And the masculinity sees this beaten down feminine energy or representation of feminine energy as someone who is ashamed of itself, yet it still is seeking life. And that's when Jesus speaks to, I understand your pain. Your pain is that you have been from man to man, or masculinity has been abusive towards you, has always used you. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to be ashamed of who you are anymore. Neither do you have to come in the heat of the day to draw from this source of life, because the day will come when there will not be, when you will not worship in this place or in Jerusalem. The place where you will worship will be within. What he's saying is, you don't have to go to a certain place in order for you to be submissive to who you were created to be. You will be able to do that from within, even in the presence of those who have oppressed you, have abused you, have looked down upon you. You will understand and you will see that even the females who look down on you are in worse condition than you are, because they are not even seeking life at the level that you are. You are coming at the most harsh time of the day seeking life, and they wait until it's comfortable, when the opportunity is better, when they can cajole and talk with each other, but at the same time remain in bondage and in abusive relationships. And I know I've said a lot, but are there questions or comments, or does that make sense to you, Angela?
Yes, that makes sense.
Questions or comments?
Could you talk a little bit about the water itself? He says that the water, you talked about where she would worship, and that it did not have to be at the location, at the physical location. But did he not say something about the water that
The
I
water-
give you.
The water is at a well, and well water carries all of the elements that is necessary for life. Well water carries the elements that bring forth life, whether it be a seed or whether it be a human body. And the purpose of it being at the well is because it's a natural source of water, and water being a reminder of the spiritual essence of our being. That water is the physical reminder of spirituality, and here we are with an arbiter of spirituality, speaking to the womb of spirituality and saying to that womb that you don't have to come to this place or in the other place to worship. What is being said in essence is that you are drawn from life. Life is the life source for this physical body is water, and the spiritual source is internal. So when you combine those two, you will be in a place where you are able to not only recognize who you are, but you will have the power and the wherewithal to function in the manner that you were created to function, meaning that to give birth to love and kindness, peace and harmony in this earth, as opposed to being lost in your shame and thinking that water is simply for the refreshment of the body, as opposed to being a reminder of the spiritual essence of our being. I hope that helps. If not, please somebody help me.
That makes sense as well. I understand a little more. Thank you.
Barbara?
Yes, thank you.
I have a question. Is water masculine and feminine?
Yes. If you think about it, in the beginning, in the waters that the scripture talks about, where the Spirit hovered over it, right? In those waters were the germ or were the elements that's necessary to bring life into the earth and to sustain life in the earth. And that water had to be masculine and feminine. Even in the Egyptian understanding of the waters of noon, it speaks very clearly. The Cushite understanding of beginnings of the waters speaks very clearly that within the waters of noon were the germ of male and female, meaning that in the waters were the precursor to what would become a male and a female. That is more explicit than you find it in Genesis. Why? Because the Cushite writings of beginning predate by at least 10,000 years the writings of beginnings that we have been studying in Genesis. So yes, that both are in the waters. Does that help you?
Yes, thank you.
Uh-huh. Anyone else?
Yes, sir. It's something I wanted to add with the heat of the day at the woman at the well. It is as you have said. It also, looking at it from a spiritual perspective, Jesus represented the heat of the day, meaning he represented the ripeness of this spiritual concept, of this place of understanding. Those who were not ready for this saw this, as you said, this is the wrong time to be here, and I am at a place of comfort. But the ripeness of what she was seeking, it was the opportunity. So the heat of the day also talks about this is the time to gain this concept. This is the time for understanding. If we have studied the sayings in the scripture when it talks about night and day, for example, in Genesis where it talks about the evening and the morning were the first day. We've always, just looking at that, thought that was odd the way that is written. why evening, starting the day off in the evening? There's a message there. The same with Nicodemus coming in the time of night that he came to speak with Jesus. There is a message there. He's coming in his darkest hour. He has no clue as to what he's looking for. So when they look at this lesson, the heat of the day is saying you have come at opportunity where you can be enlightened. You have come at opportunity that it is no coincidence that you are here. It is no coincidence that I am here. We have come to the spiritual world. The universe has brought us together to bring this type of understanding at this time into the earth. So I just want to add that to what you said.
Thank you. While you were speaking, what I see is that Jesus was the seed of righteousness, meaning that since males had messed everything up in terms of denigrating the female, the seed of righteousness had to be placed into the womb of desire in order for the effectiveness of the teachings to take place. That makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Question, comment?
I have a question. So is breast milk a continuation of the waters?
What do you mean?
Well, you know, we see the necessity of breast milk to feed a child when you have it. So my thinking is, how is it connected to the waters? Because usually we feed that the first year, 6 months to a year or a year and a half. So I'm wondering if that is, is that representative of the waters of none?
I'm trying to understand your question, Vermeil. Are you asking me, or asking us, because I'm not the only one with an answer by any means, are you asking us if the waters that we're talking about with the woman at the well related to the waters of noon?
Not the woman at the women. I'm thinking of when we breastfeed our babies.
Uh-huh.
We said that all water is
Sacred.
right. So is that a is that helping our children grow? Is that, or keeping us connected?
Hey, this is Nick.
Somehow I see that as relevant.
I might be able to help with that.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Relative to water, I think my immediate impression of what you're asking about is that breast milk is a kind of qualified water with many more layers added on top of it. So whereas water is representative of the fundamental and sort of most core component of what we need to live, breast milk is a mixture of things in addition to water that we need to help us function in the material plane, if that makes sense. So it's like a water that is conditioned by the mother in order to help a baby transition from a more pure spiritual awareness, which would have been represented by the water in the amniotic fluid or in the womb, to now that you are present in the physical experience, here's what you need to become, shall we say, strong enough to handle that experience. And it is the wisdom, both physical on a cellular level and also spiritual, that is accumulated by the mother that is passed on to the baby. And it is the wisdom that comes from the experience of having been in this material experience that is being passed on to the baby. All of it is based on water, but it is a permutation of that water that is designed to help you deal with what this experience is as you physically grow, if that makes sense.
It does.
It
Yeah.
does. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Anyone
I
else?
I also don't think it is a coincidence that it's been proven that breastfeeding babies are healthier in those first few toddler years than those that do not, and that's something that we could look up as far as the statistics on that. So I don't think that's a coincidence either.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Angela. I got another question. When you were talking about water is masculine and feminine energy, and the question I was going to ask, going back to Genesis of when Adam and Eve, when Adam said to God that this is the woman that you gave me. So was that when the imbalance or the split between well, I'm gonna say feminine energy, as you said, was abused by the masculine energy?
This is part of the beginning. This is showing us the beginning of male domination. It's showing us what to expect. In other words, if that was not in the Creator, it wouldn't have been in Adam. It would have not been in the masculine. Everything that is said to have been in the masculine and the feminine had to have its genesis in our Creator. Because we are created in that image and likeness. So why is it that this would have to, why is it that this would be in our Creator? Why? Why is it that this disturbance, for lack of a better word, it's this moment in the garden, why would that be in us? It is my belief that the reason it is in us is because without it, we would not be able to create. There would be nothing to create. There has to be forces of diametrics in order to bring about substance for creation. If there is discord, then from that discord you can bring into being peace. So why would we have to do that? Why were we not just given that as we were brought into this physical world? The reason being is that if we are to be the likeness of our Creator, then we would have to be creators. In order to be creators, we have to have a spiritual substance from which to create. And that spiritual substance from which we create is diametrically opposed to righteousness, peace, and joy, those attributes of the kingdom. So we are to transform those attributes of adversity into the attributes of harmony. By doing that, we are creating. In actuality, inventing a car is not creating. The creating comes with the substance that you invent, make the car from. So we are not creating minerals. We are not creating earth. We are creating an environment of spirituality for those occupants of the earth to be able to dominate in a righteous way, as opposed to being browbeaten into submission based upon the negativity of this environment. Does that make sense? Angela?
does. Thank you.
So, where are we with the waters? This started out, well, yesterday when I started, it was based upon understanding the things that I saw when I listened to the previous discussions. And seeing that the account of creation in Genesis was synopsis of the original account of creation as written by the Cushites. The original understandings of spirituality that came before religion was more, this account of beginning of creation was more in depth. And by virtue of looking at both the original story of creation and the synopsis of it, I was shown through the memories of the water that I'm created with. I was shown that they are the same stories, and both of them are speaking to the divine essence of our being, also speaking to our mission in this earth. Mission being to remember that we are the light of all the diversity in this world. We are the enlightenment for everything in this world. And we cannot be hidden or ignored, just like a city on a hill cannot be hidden. We cannot be overshadowed by the religious concepts that are adverse to what the scriptures say. What am I saying? Because we are the enlightenment of this earth, knowing that Jesus the African is speaking to the African audience, he is saying you are the enlightenment of this earth, and no one can hide you or ignore you. This is and the creation story says to us the reason we are the enlightenment, because you were the first physical beings humans brought into this earth. And you were brought into this earth from the beginnings of everything that is. Keep in mind that creation was not a sequential event. Creation was instant. It was like an explosion, and everything became what it is. I am saying to you that though we read a sequence, if you look at the original creation story, it does not give you any sense of a sequential beginning. It gives you the sense of an instant beginning, like a corn, as Einstein explained creation, is that the density of everything was in something no larger than a quarter, and it exploded into the becomings of the universe. So what I'm saying is that the moment that when you look at it from the Cushite, the never knew, or when you look at it from the Hebraic understanding of Ein Sof, or the one whose name cannot be pronounced, or the creator of everything that is. Never knew, same principle. The moment that the desire came into being everything else that it desired came into being instantaneously. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm making an effort to say?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Pastor, if I may, I sincerely appreciate, just the understanding, in reference to the esoteric meaning of this sacred water. And I think bringing this up initially, as we have a better understanding in terms of the eternal waters, I guess, of immortality. And what I'm, coming to an awareness of is the importance of the entire universe is made up of either matter or energy. And we know that in this substance, in this matter, is the eternal water of none or none. And it says that none, an internal presence called many things, plasma, ether, or water, or hydrogen. The none has no beginning and it has no end. And the characteristics of the none pre-existed potentially within the none. And so in really just trying to grasp this as far as the creation story of the Kushites in the Kemetic teaching, it talks about the concept of Khepera. And it says that the cosmos was brought into being for the first time during a moment called the Khepera Septepi, which is the coming into being for the first time. So with this big bang, as we look at the cosmos and we think of it in terms of the universe, we know that this universe was the waters of the none, or was the Pangea, which what you mentioned earlier was in all of this matter. And what's manifesting or coming out of this now is a better understanding of how important the eternal water is, or this sacred water. So I just wanted to, just share. I think it just gives me a better perspective to be able to appreciate, the original substance of none as being matter, but also, this water that is all in the substance of it all. So, I just wanted to share those thoughts because I think it gives me a foundation in terms of being able to appreciate the none and the Nunet, which is that polarity as far as the masculine and the feminine energy. And I think that definitely helps me to appreciate, our beginning or my beginning. I just wanted to share those thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. One of the things that you said, George, I want to amplify, if I may, and that is speaking of the waters of beginning, what you call the waters of noon, or the waters that's in Genesis, in that it's not just water, it was plasma, it was everything that flows. Because the reality of it is this: without the liquidity of plasma, or without the liquidity of water, there is no life. Everything that flows has its foundation in water. And water is not only the carrier of everything, every element that's necessary for life. As Nick said earlier, it is also the basic substance for everything that flows, that keeps us alive, like our blood, like the fluid that encompasses our brain, like the breast milk. Everything that flows has its foundation, which means that when we talk about we are flowing, that is a memory from creation, from beginning. That when we talk about flowing, that means there is movement, there's vibration, there is rhythm. That means that we are moving in the direction that we desire to, whether it be a good place or not. But the flowing speaks to the memory of our origin, which is water itself. Does that make sense? Questions, comments?
I have a question. So now that we're bringing awareness to water, will things now change? Will the whole universe become more aware of us not being afraid of water anymore? Because we as Africans, a lot of people don't like their hair being wet. A lot of Africans were scared of water. So what's going to happen now that we put all of this out in the macro?
Thank you. I'm so glad you brought that up. The idea of not getting our hair wet has very little to do with the fear of water. It has everything to do with racism. Because the way our hair draws up when it gets wet, that's us being ashamed of what we have been told is nappy, kinky hair. All those things have been negative references to who we are. So that has nothing to do with the fear. It has everything to do with the shame of who you are. As far as the fear of water, there is a spiritual dynamic that causes that. Embedded deeply within our spiritual DNA is the transatlantic slave trade. When we were drowned on purpose to instill fear into others, when enslaved people who were on the tobacco plantations on the coast of South Carolina, when they were seen as being rebellious, they were put in a boat and carried out to the middle of the ocean and thrown into the ocean, and the boat left them there to drown. Those are the kinds of things that instill within our spiritual DNA a fear of water, or an idea of not trusting our ability to survive surrounded by water. And now I do think that when we embrace it, we meaning those of us who are seeking the true nature, understanding the true nature of who we are, when we embrace these realities, that will begin to put it in the macro. Just saying it does it, but it really sticks when it is experienced. And it is my belief that we can change the fear and the shame about the waters. We are the first builders of ships. We are the first of all humanity to be able to travel across this globe on the water. No one was able to do that before we were. And we have to bring our memory of that before the memory that was instilled in us, just like we have to abate the memory of the shame of our hair being wet. We have to abate the fear of being drowned. That's where it emanates. Now, there is something involved in this evidence larger, much larger than that. And that is this. Right now, since at least the discussions started with this water, from the beginning of the discussion to now, we should have a different approach to our thoughts, to our desires. If something comes to your mind that is improper, then you should immediately be made aware of it, because you understand that if you follow it through, then that vibration is going to be negative, which throws you out of rhythm with the universe. It is no different than the original understanding of sin. original understanding of sin speaks to entanglements, yes, but the depth of that word sin speaks to being out of rhythm with the universe. So these entanglements throws us out of rhythm, just like the adversarial thoughts throws us out of rhythm with the universe. So now we should be at a place where the moment that thought comes to us, we are able to extinguish it or transform it into something that is positive so that it does not have an adverse effect on humanity. Is that clear?
Yes, and also since I've become natural, my hair thirsts for water, and it probably was doing that all before, but I wasn't aware of it. But my hair thirsts for water, and I try to keep it hydrated as often as I can. I even got a water bottle on my desk. So when I'm ready to give it the water, I can feel when it wants water. And also, there are times, and I don't know if it's just me, that I need to be around water. It's like water is drawing me to it. That's what I want to say.
That's unnatural at all. The peacefulness, the calmness. Think about it. When we are talking about sleep, rain relaxes us. I don't know how many of you have had this experience, but when I was younger, houses had tin tops on them, and the rain against that tin had a sense of had the powers of relaxation, and it lulled us into a deeper sleep. Even now, if it's raining and you raise your windows, you will see that your sleep is more peaceful and it's easier to fall asleep. So that is not, a far-fetched thing at all. Any questions or comments about that?
Yes, I have a question regarding perspiration, sweating, as related to water. Could you elaborate on that?
The reason you perspire is the body is telling you that you're overheating. And the perspiration comes, that's one place of it. It cools the body. The other part of it is that if you are in a discussion with someone, or if you are processing what someone has said that angered you, and you feel you are sweating, then that's telling you about your stress level. So there are various reasons that your body sweats, but every time it does, it's sending you a message. It's telling you something. Can I help you, Jack?
Whether positive or negative, it's sending a message, or it just depends on how we respond to it.
Yes. See, this is what we got to understand. Whether we are negative or positive, our body is going to respond. That's the reason it is important that we govern our thoughts, our speech, our desires, because your body is going to respond. Where do you feel it when somebody hurts your feelings? In the abdominal region. Why do you feel it there? Because the vibration from the processing of it in your mind, you vibrated the water, and that rhythm is thrown off, so you feel out of sorts. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yes. And the pastor, if I may, in terms of Evelyn, your comments about, the waters and, what it meant in terms of us experiencing those moments. I initially, mentioned in reference to something that was shared to me about God sometimes takes us into troubled waters, not to drown us, but to cleanse us. And I think that, Evelyn, and what you said has made me appreciate the importance of breathing. Because sometimes we are thrust in the waters, and just being able to have a sense of breathing, have a sense of just being able to hold our breath, even if it's for an extra second. But that second can make all the difference in the world in terms of our victories or our defeats. And I think just being able to appreciate breathing or holding our breath an extra second or extra 2 seconds. And I think that it's said that some have come to the point where they're able to hold their breath for 3 to 5 minutes. And so our time is not necessarily God's time, but I think in terms of what you said, it just given me a deeper appreciation of breathing and vibration and frequencies in terms of being in rhythm. So I appreciate the comment that you made, because I'm seeing it a little bit more clearly in terms of the importance of meditating and breathing. And I think that has a lot to relate to water, which has given me a better understanding. So I just wanted to share those thoughts too. I'm done, Pastor.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, this is Andrew. I wanted to share when we were talking about water. I have I think this may be why my connection to me understanding the water, because the trauma that I had from going out. Well, we went on a school trip, and I went. Well, the teacher was supposed to be watching me, but somehow I got away, and I like to drown another 2 times. And to this day, I'll get in the water, but it's learning how to swim. I guess that's kind of the trauma that when I see, water or it's pool and all that related, takes me back to that incident. So I think that was as far as my connection, been seeing water in the spiritual aspect because of the physical trauma that I had with water, not drinking water or taking a shower, but in that essence.
Yeah. And that is because of the trauma. But you have the ability to overcome it. Let me show you how much control you have. There are written accounts, people on slave ships who were being transported to this country who had the control, so much control, until they were able to hold their breath until they died because they refused to be enslaved. That's how much control we have. So what am I saying? If someone can do that and hold their breath long enough to exit their body, then our focus on righteousness can birth righteousness for this entire universe, or for this entire globe, because the universe is righteous. We can do that if you can focus long enough to exit your body by refusing to breathe. What happens when we are focused and we are breathing for the express purpose of peace and harmony? Yesterday, I talked about the one who brought everything into existence was never brought into existence. The one who had given birth has never been born. The one who produced everything that is was never produced. The one who gave life was never given life. And that's our origin. When we are able to really embrace that, then we will understand what Jesus meant when he said, "No one takes my life. I lay it down." You can't take my life. I give my life for humanity. What is he saying? He's not talking about not existing anymore. He's talking about I exit this body for the purpose of humanity. You cannot force me to do that. I will do that in due time. So when Jesus was put on the cross and exited the body, no one killed him. Jesus was saying, this time has been chosen for me to exit this body, and you cannot alter that time. That's the kind of influence that we have, not just for humanity, but for us within the confines of these bodies. Our focus, Jesus' focus, was not for himself. Jesus' focus was for mankind. Period. Kathy raised a point yesterday about whether or not when we are balanced, is it for us? And the point was that she was offering was that I think I'm getting it right. If I'm not, Kathy, please correct me. That we need to be reminded that no matter how balanced we feel that we are, there was always imbalance present. So that we cannot just rest in what we think is our peace. We have to continuously desire peace for humanity. I think that's the gist of what you were saying. If not, Kathy, please clean that up for me. Or someone else who was on the line.
Yes, that was my question yesterday, because when you were saying that when you were referencing Genesis, when darkness was hovering over the deep and that we create out of chaos, that resonated with me. And it was like, so you're never at a state of not creating. And if you're never at a state of not creating, even when you perceive that you're in a place where nothing is going on in your life and you're at a place of quote unquote balance, I think Barbara had said it's what the energies that we continuously draw to us. If I'm always drawing to me those things and being made aware of those things in the world that are not in a state of balance, then technically I am not in a state of balance always, because I am always going to be creating and dealing with that. So it's never that my world is fine and I'm just okay and I don't have to be concerned about anything else. And I think that's the way we were explaining it yesterday, and I hope I'm saying it right. But that was my question on yesterday. Do we get to that point of understanding that being my brother's keeper means I'm truly my brother's keeper? And if there's one entity in the world that is out of order and not in a place of balance, then neither am I, because it is my job to deal with that. Thank you.
So what I hear also, something I did not hear yesterday, is this. Creators are in a continuous state of creating. There is never a time when you are not creating. The question only is, what are you creating? Are you creating more chaos, or are you bringing or creating order out of that chaos? And that is the memory aspect of what we are hearing now about the waters and how they have an impact on our thoughts, on our desires, on our memories. Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a question. Well, I have a comment and a question. Pastor, you were talking about breathing, or somebody was talking about breathing, and I remember a long time ago when Jamil taught about breath, and he was saying how we all breathe our breathing is too shallow. So when we when we take slow, deep breaths, it's better because it affects our autonomic nervous system, our vagus nerve, which controls all those like heart rate and all that kind of stuff. All those kinds of things that African Americans tend to suffer from, like heart disease, diabetes, all that stuff. So it can be good for us physiologically if we practice slow, deep breathing. But the other thing, if I remember, we talked about breath in terms of like blasphemy. I don't even remember all that conversation, but I just remember that. So that because our life is in the breath, right? And if we're not taking slow, deep breaths, we're basically shortening our own life based on whatever stress we allow ourselves to experience. But anyway, that's my comment part, and I don't know if I'm on the right track or not. But my question then is, you talked about Jesus gave his life. He wasn't killed, he gave his life. Well, so here's my question. Did he just decide to stop breathing?
No, when Jesus was talking about giving his life, he said that of room, actually universe, if it's your will, let this cup pass from me, leave me in this body, but not mine, but yours. And when Jesus realized that it was the will of the Father, he submitted to the actual crucifixion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what was Jesus' words on that cross? It says that, and then he gave up the ghost into thine hands. I, what was it? Give my spirit or something like that. I commit my spirit or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what he was saying was, I'm giving up the ghost. So in the sense that he knew he was supposed to die, he did indeed determine when he was going to leave his body. No different than people who have a terminal illness or someone who makes a decision, like the guy in Texas. He died, was killed. There are many occasions where we have experienced people who made a decision, I'm tired, and they exit their body. They leave on their own terms. They determine when they're going to exit their body. Now, the difference is there are those who are like the kids who were killed. Their lives was laid down, but the question to me becomes, did they give their life or was it taken? I see it both sides. I see that their lives were taken, but for a purpose. I see also that their lives were given up, but for a purpose. Things are different as a result of those 19 people being killed. Now, they exited their bodies, and they did not do it consciously for mankind. However, the result of it is influencing the thoughts of mankind in a positive way and exposing the brutality, the lack of concern about life, the greed in others. So it has a twofold effect. As their lives were taken, it exposed. As their lives were given, it also pricked the heart of humanity. It is difficult to talk about because I don't want to run the risk of sounding a bit morbid or sounding like, oh, well, they just got killed for a purpose. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's painful to experience that, but it's also painful when you think about not only what happened to those kids and those teachers, but how it has a positive effect on humanity, but a negative effect on the on humanity. Does that make sense? Audrey?
Yeah, yeah, it made sense. So you're saying that Jesus knew when he was going to die, so it just happened.
Yeah.
But he also decided that he was going to die, or no?
He decided. It happened. For example, I was in college. I came home on a Saturday morning, and I was getting ready to leave that Sunday. And my grandmama said to me, I said to her, she had been sick. I said to her, I'll be back next weekend. And she said, if you come back next week, I will be gone. And I said, I will be back before next week. And I came back Sunday night because I had to get some things done in D.C. Once I got those things done, I turned right around and I came back. Early Monday morning, I got in. And I left the house about 9 o'clock Monday morning. And when I went back to the house, because I forgot something, she was dead. And prior to my leaving, she had talked to me about her expectations for me in regards to the family and the reason she pushed me to leave when I did to go to school someplace else. She knew when she was going to die. That's my point. How many times have some of us, if not all of us, on this Zoom call experienced something similar to that? That's what I'm talking about, Audrey.
Okay. And I can see what you mean about those children. Because I mean, it helps to deal with it better when you think that when you think they gave their lives as opposed to their lives were taken. Because it's, I mean, I can see to a point that it had to happen because it had to happen for changes to come.
Yes. And we are not the only ones who are saying what we're saying. The people on the stages at these protests are saying the same thing. They're just saying it in a different way. When they say, "Do not let their lives be in vain," what are they saying? They died for a purpose. Let's fulfill that purpose. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Anyone else? Thank you, Audrey. Anyone else? Comment? Question?
Okay. Hey, Real.
Yes, sir.
I have two questions. Two things I need to ask you about. Now, is Migma is the same thing as water? And the other question.
Yes, sir.
One at a time.
You know I might forget it.
Okay.
One at a time.
Yeah, I ain't gonna forget it. Okay.
I don't.
Okay, Migva, yes, it is water. It is a water baptism of type. It's no different than baptism, right? It means to be immersed in water. So Migva means that you are immersed in water, and the question of what the purpose of it is a reminder, is a return to the womb, and reminding us of the freshness of life or the opportunity for life to be reversed or a journey. And we can get deeper into that if we were to talk about mikvah in relationship to a menstruation cycle, because it means something deeper than what we're just talking about. Baptism, on the other hand, it is different in its meaning from mikvah because it does not speak to anything about re-entering the womb. It simply speaks about the idea of becoming a member of a church.
Okay.
So that is quite different, and membership in a church is far from the meaning of mikvah. And if you remember, that is the reason I altered the way that I did baptism. I did them in the way that many of the Hebrews did mikvah, because of the meaning of it, the significance of it, as opposed to simply being a member of a church. Second question, if that answers the first one, or if there are not other people about the first one. Or comment? Now the second one, y'all.
The second question.
My second question is, how do what correlate with the waters of Noah day and the flood?
All the waters in the scriptures speak to something. The waters of the flood speaks to a mikvah for the entire earth. It is an anthology that tells us about the need for the cleansing of the earth, for the earth to be reminded of its birth, its origin, for the earth to be reminded of the reality that it was divinely birthed, and the cleansing of it means that it brings back to memory the purpose for its existence. And when I say the earth, I'm not talking about the natural physical ball earth. I'm not talking about the earth in terms of being a celestial object. I'm talking about the earth in terms of the consciousness of the earth and its relationship to the understanding of its relationship with the Creator. Okay?
Okay.
Does that help you, or does it generate more questions? If so, raise it.
It helped me, but I do have another question, but it might not be toward what we're talking about.
That is never matters. Right.
Okay, during that flood, if everybody got wiped out, and when the water ceased, what happened to all the bodies?
First of all, that if that were the case, literally, then bodies would have decayed. However, when I said it's an anthology, it is a story. It is a story to express a spiritual truth. It is an allegory with a spiritual meaning. Okay? Got it?
Got it.
Okay. Any questions about that? I want to amplify that a little bit. Our struggles today with embracing the nature of scriptures in spiritual terms is based upon how we have been spoon-fed lies or forcibly taught lies. We have been taught that these things are literal, and people are searching for an ark. They won't find it because it doesn't exist in that physical form. It is incumbent upon us to understand the spiritual nature of not only who we are, but the words that have been written for us to use as a guide to understand who we are. We are obligated, not just to ourselves, but we are obligated to everything that's created to get to the truth, about the nature of creation itself, and all of the allegories that are written in the scriptures. So that's our goal, that's our purpose, and that's what we make every attempt to do every time that we meet on Zoom or face-to-face or however we meet. So that's where we are. That's all I have, unless there are more questions. Comments?
I kind of have a question. It's I love creation, and listening to the water, it made me kind of hone in more on Genesis 1 and looking at this thing. One verse really stands out to me, and I'm gonna read something here. Genesis 1, I'm starting 6 and go through 9. It says, "Then God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And God made the expanse and separated the waters which were below the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And it was so. And God called the expanse heaven. And there was evening, there was morning, a second day. And God said, let the waters below the heavens be gathered into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so." That's the verse that sticks out to me, the dry land appearing. So as we look at this, and we talk about the spirituality of understanding this water in the body, the water being in everything that lives, there would be no life without water. We talk about the relationship with water and memory, how that links us together. It's been, quite enlightening, the vibrations and being in sync with it, the water that, surrounds the brain. So all of that points to me and talks about a high frequency of vibration in the water. But out of that water comes the land, a lower frequency vibration, if you will. And I look at that, and all those verses, we've, not just us, but I mean, man has kind of overlooked over the years, thinking just something to talk about creation, but it really has a meaning. And I think we're just having an opportunity to kind of look at what that means. If you look, just kind of fast forward to the creation of man, man was made from those elements. He's part of that lower vibration or lower frequency, but only about 10% of him. But that seems to be the portion of himself that he is more in tune with or feels more comfortable with. And it just, I guess, kind of an observation. I just want us to kind of look at that and maybe gain some understanding, since we are at a place now where we're kind of understanding this all a little bit and how this relates to who we are and how we got here. I just looked at that and thought, the dry ground came from, it appeared out of the water. And that just kind of, I think that says something. I just don't know what. And just wondering if you have any comments, or anybody has any comments on that. And the making the man from the dust of the ground, it does not say he was taken from the dirt or God dug into the earth. It says he was taken from the dust, and the dust, I'm just, from my way of thinking, is that part of the sand that is so light that it kind of hovers above the ground. So man is made from that, but he also is that conduit that ties together those two expanses, right? So talk to that a little bit and help me to see what that is saying, please.
I'll touch it, but I will have a totally separate discussion on it because of its in depth in terms of the origin of the land from the waters, right? When you talk about being made from the dust, right? There are approximately 108 elements known to man that's in the earth. And man made from approximately 90 of those elements. If you think about that, could it possibly be, and I think it really is saying this, based upon my study of the first writings of creation, it is saying that man is made from a portion of the dirt. And a portion of the dirt is dust, which means that there are elements that's separated from the earth that's incorporated in the physical making of man, but not all of those elements were used. So if I look at it from the original, what it talks about is Atum bringing into existence those physical things. And Atum speaks to the understanding of what an atom is, ATOM, what an atom is. And it's talking about that a portion of the soil was used to make man. So that's how I see that idea of the dust being used for the creation or for the structuring of man, the physical elements of man. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does.
Because there are portions of that are much more involved than what I just said, and I would like to reserve that if you will make note of it and revisit it tomorrow. Because I know we said a lot, and the discussion of that will probably carry us for another 45 minutes to an hour. Okay.
Okay.
Now, I don't want to leave anyone hanging in terms of what we've discussed. So if there are questions or comments, please make them, or ask the question or make the comment. Because without questions and comments, we don't learn. Okay? We help each other process when we raise questions and make comments. Again, I encourage you to have paper and pen when we have these discussions, especially now, because we are at a place where we are truly beginning to see not only that we are Elohim, but what that means and what's expected of us by our Creator when we embrace that reality. So questions are extremely important. Understanding is even more important. Without understanding, there's no real teaching going on. Okay, let me thank you guys for your questions, comments, and your listening, your receiving, hopefully, and embracing of the essence of what we are teaching. And my expectation and desire is we revisit this on tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock. And if there are no comments or questions about what has been discussed, then we'll stop here until tomorrow. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Everybody.
Bye.